today Lawrence is going to talk about how to foster inclusion in the workplace as well as attract and optimize retention. It's a whole lot of things in one topic, but we'll try and do what we can do. First of all, I'll say that you're very famous on LinkedIn, yeah? And one of the reasons why I selected him as a speaker today are so many women engineers and ladies in STEM basically who follow her. I guess a following of over 15,000 people. On LinkedIn, that's different. It's different if it's on Instagram, Facebook, that's there. But LinkedIn, that's good. So I guess so many women leaders and engineers in that matter find a lot of empowerment from you and inspiration from what you share online and who you are as a leader. So congratulations for that, and thank you for making mentorship your leadership goal, and thank you for also supporting women empowerment. So I guess this conversation might unlock our leadership potentials also as young women today and understand everything from a male perspective, but at the same time, I guess you will not be biased in your answers. So one of the things that I found hard in terms of identifying how many women are in tech today is that there's no current data on number of women in science and technical professions. We just rely on what we see. So when I'm in spaces, I see, today there are more ladies, and other places, other fields, there are less ladies. But an article by Business Daily in 2017 raises hope. It says that there were 21,400 professional women employed in the science and technical fields. That's a fairly good number, but this represented a jump. That's the whole of STEM, yeah. It's a jump, from 2017 to 2018 by 10.8%, right? But then even though their numbers were 21,400, it's still not yet anywhere close to the male representation in the STEM field, which is 52,400 professionals registered. But you know what? This statistics is from 2017. I couldn't find 2022 data. Maybe with time I will, and I'll be able to share that online. So I guess this is how we'll be collecting data, by asking leaders in STEM today that how many women work in the organization. So how many women work in KONE? Is it KONE or KONE? Just
well, it's KONE.
KONE.
So that's the elevator company, as
okay.
you know, which first of all, it's a global company, 110 years old, and globally there are 61,000 employees.
Okay.
In East Africa, which is what we call our frontline, we are actually just 72 people. In Kenya and in Uganda. And of those 72 people, I would say there are about 20 women.
Okay.
And these women are spread across different functions. In the leadership team, we have 4 out of 9 who are ladies in my leadership team. And then we have some women as test engineers and in other aspects like finance. So we are a relatively small organization compared with a global organization, also compared with the work that we do, because we also do a lot of work through subcontractors. Yeah. So we don't do everything.
We don't do everything.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. We talked about Isuzu having a women's council, and I just have to ask, is there any policy, structure, anything you're doing to support the 20 women in East Africa?
Well, we don't have a women's council, first of all, but we look for opportunities where the women can sort of be able to encourage one another, hang out together. So we, for example, recently were women in real estate. They had an event, so we partnered with that, and looking for other opportunities that we can partner as we grow. Also, just on your statistics, I think it's also important that you look at the women who are graduating out of colleges. For example, not all graduate engineers are members of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. There are many people who are working in the engineering fields, but they're not registered as engineers. But if you look at who is coming out of college, then you can be able to get more, let's say, real data.
Yeah. Okay, interesting concept. There's also this concept nowadays, because there are a few ladies here who asked about trying to advance their careers and things like that. But there's a concept called pivoting, right? I don't know if you've all heard of it. This is a concept in the workplace where employers are reskilling and upskilling employees, right? So they can be able to retain them, especially now with the pandemic. Yeah, instead of losing jobs, you're given new roles, and your maybe some of the some of the job descriptions are revised. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's a good thing. First of all, within organization, it's important to encourage internal mobility. By internal mobility, I mean you get people serving across different roles so that you can have experiences moving across as people also learn. So that's important. We have that in KONE and also in the previous company that I worked for. I think also if you love your job, and you want to do it for the rest of your life, that's fine. That's okay. You don't need to move just for the sake of moving. I worked a couple of years in Europe, and I had colleagues who had done the same job for 25 years, 30 years, and they loved it. There's a gentleman who loved pricing, so he was doing global pricing, and that's all he did from the time he joined to the time he left, and he didn't want to leave. He just wanted to do that job. So if you're that kind of person, that's fantastic. If you want, but also what you need to know is that the nature of work is also changing. Some roles are becoming redundant. So then you need to upskill. In our company, we have what we call a people plan. So every year we look at specific things that we will do for people in that year. One of the things that's always constant, I see even this year we have, is what we call upskilling, just as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Upskilling. So what kind of training is it that we can put people through, especially for opportunities that are going to come up in the future? And even some of them are there now. For example, digitization. I was sharing some time with the students from Strathmore and other universities, engineering students, and I just gave a printout of some of the jobs that have been advertised in our company and also in other companies globally. Just go to LinkedIn and look at jobs, and you'll see some of those jobs you've never heard of them before. Okay. And a lot of digitization and those kind of things. So we need to continue upskilling. Very important. Yeah.
So in your company, you say you do that, and I guess Rita had talked about fear, and I want to keep talking about this element where the upskilling and reskilling might scare people off, and women might feel some type of way. There's lots of challenges that come with change, right? So how would you advise young women to deal with this kind of change in their workplace if it's happening right now? Because we are in the middle of a pandemic still, and your organization is asking you to do things that were never there, or otherwise you might lose your job and you're not sure whether you'll be good at that skill. So how would you advise them to maneuver and navigate through this kind of change?
Well, fear, of course, is there. Like Rita said, everybody has fear, but you will find that the person who's going to step up to the opportunity that you are fearing, actually, if you maybe rate yourself versus that person, you'll find that most likely you may consider yourself better than that person, And those people who are able to quickly, grasp those opportunities, they tend to move far, and they are normally not necessarily the best people, but they jump onto it. So what I would encourage people is that if you have an opportunity, just go for it and don't wait to be perfect. So if there's an opportunity to train, just go and learn that. That's a skill that you're going to use later. It's going to be useful at one place or another. So just go for it. And especially if you're in a place where you get free training, people are paying lots of money to get training, but there's free training. Just go for it. Of course, check, is it in line with your career path? So of course, as an individual, you also need to foresee yourself 5 years from now. Where do I want to be? And this is one question that people always ask, even in interviews. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? You need to have that plan. Where do you see yourself? You may not necessarily land there, but you have a direction that you are taking. So whatever you are adding, is it going to take you there? Everybody here wants, I suppose, wishes to be the MD or the GM of a company, or own your own company. Some of you are owning companies. You want to be there. When you're in that role, you're going to be managing all the functions of the company. Do you want to be totally green about some aspects of the company because you are afraid to take some particular training? You want to understand as much as possible. So if it's there, go for it.
Okay, interesting way of thinking. Yeah. So, I'm going to ask you such questions that are going to be putting you on the hot seat, hot seat today. The first is, how can women seek or bid for promotions in their workplace?
Well, I would say that not all organizations promote people, using the word promotion, like you've moved from one rank to the other, like in the police force or other places. Not everybody does that. Many organizations offer opportunities for people to take up jobs. So they'll advertise for a job, and then they will see who has applied, and then they will interview those. There are organizations that expand people, let's say, within their specific roles. So if there is a vacancy that's been announced, and you see that you meet 50% of what they say is there, and you think you can do that job, or you want to give it a try, just go for it. Don't wait to check all the boxes. Go for it. Because a person will get a job probably only meets 40%.
Yeah, they say that about women. They say women would bid for, when they see a job description, a man would look at it and even if he qualifies for 40% or 60%, he will apply. A woman wants to have 100%, at least 90 to 100% of the qualifications before they apply.
Yeah, because you don't want to go and do a lousy job, but you're not going to do a lousy job. You'll go and learn on the job. I tell you, even people who, for example, in the doctor's training, if you have medics here, your training is in the hospitals. You have the clinical years, which you do in the hospitals with real patients, not dummies like we do in the first aid, Red Cross thing. Yeah. But still after that, you have to go for internship. Okay. There's training. So there's nobody who comes, out fully baked. And even in a particular job, if you're doing one job and you want to apply for the other, you may not be perfect. That's one thing. I think apply for jobs. The other thing I was going to say, that in your current role, what I've encouraged my colleagues to do, and also what I did myself, is that take up projects that could be useful to the company, and come up with a project. There's maybe you're in logistics. I want to look at some efficiency improvement, maybe with some of the processes, and suggest that to your leader, to your supervisor, whatever. I want to do that as a side project, and this project, it's going to take maybe 10 or 5% of my time. I'll do it in 6 months, 3 months. These are my objectives, and this is the outcome. So would you support that as management? If you come with that to management, they will listen to it, and in most cases they may say, okay, fine, maybe you can form a project team, or you can be a project leader, and that kind of thing. And that's the same thing I would advise both women and men. So early in my career, I took a project for service business development for a function, a business line that was not mine, and I did that for 6 months, and it helped me also in the future career. Okay. So you can expand. You can actually promote yourself within your current role by taking up extra responsibilities. But people say, what about the money? Now you're growing yourself, you're growing your experience, and maybe it's not time to think about the extra cash. It's about the attitude.
You're answering the questions, but I'm telling you, this is a hot seat. I'm seeing the kind of questions that will come after this. But would you say we'd use the same strategy to bid for promotions in the workplace, to be able to address the pay gap issue? Maybe, first of all, do you believe that women are paid less than men for the same roles in various organizations?
Well, yes, unfortunately, yes, I've seen the statistics. Of course, I wouldn't say that we do that in our company, because we don't. But I've seen that in different statistics, that women are paid less. Even just recently, I think the US football team managed to get equal pay. You can imagine. Yeah. And that's the US, first world. Yeah? Mm-hmm. I work for a Scandinavian company. It's a Finnish company. And the previous one I worked for 20 years was a Swedish company. Mm-hmm. Scandinavian, where really when it comes to women's rights and everything, it's like top notch. But even still there are big gaps. So I think this aspect of the unequal pay is something that needs to be pushed, but it needs to be pushed from leadership level. Of course, as an employee, you can advocate for it, which is nice. But here, I think at leadership level, and I mean, in this room, we have people who are in KEPSA, Business Board, Rita, and the rest. And so basically, here in this room, you have people who are in a forum that basically runs this country economically. If all those people shut their organizations, the company is completely shut down. So we have voices here that can continue to speak that voice, that message. I know they are doing that, but they can continue to speak that message so that Kenya itself is seen as a country where this thing of an equal pay is done away with. Maybe something that would be interesting to do, because social media is very active, is to try some kind of equal pay campaign in Kenya, which you can champion as women today. Yeah, make noise about it. And then people come up with these roles. I'm an engineer at Ketrako. How come the other man is, is that kind of thing? But I think Ketrako are doing a good job.
Yeah. Good idea, but I guess one thing women will be afraid of at that point is their job security. Because if you go there and you display your company and you reveal your identity, the chances are that. But I love the idea. That's a good idea. Let's create a hashtag equal pay. Yeah, so I just want to get on to the things that maybe people want to hear more, what opportunities do you know that women can leverage on? I'll just start by statistics I saw. That as much as women have been trying to convert their ideas into viable businesses for Africa, and Africa is now a hotbed for innovation, actually. A study, however, shows that the best funded tech startups, it's STEM, of course, STEM startups, are led by foreigners. Funding for African startups is less than 3%, right? And out of the 3%, right, women-led tech startups still do not get a fair share of the funding. When I was starting the conversation, I think you had me talking about a lady who at least one got 100 million, US. That's an achievement because it's really tricky, and the share doesn't go quite fairly within the spectrum. So what opportunities are there for funding? Maybe sometimes you're in this men's quorums and you hear these things and you can push it and say, let me tell the ladies today, that maybe this has been shared here and there. So what opportunities are there for SMEs, for interest groups, interest group support groups for women that can join, youth and women programs they can join, funding opportunities. Actually, let me stick on that, funding opportunities, because they say women in Africa are empowered, but that's in terms of financially, but then not, they're empowered, but not well empowered financially, So I guess that's something you can address.
Well, first of all, it's true that many startups that you see, tech startups in Africa, are foreign owned. I saw something on the internet some time back, showing all these, non-African faces who have started African sort of startups. And in there you have both men and women, but in most cases it's the men. Also, something that you see in organizations that rely on funding, external funding. A lot of these organizations have someone whose role is fundraising.
Okay. Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that raising funds and looking for funds is a very, very key aspect of any kind of enterprise that wants to grow. On one side, for example, in our case, we sell products, solutions. So our funding is different because we collect the money from clients. But of course, initially when it was starting, some people had to put in capital. But I also see that there is a lot of funding that's available in different countries. And a lot of funding now is going towards causes that are considered to be pressing at this moment. So things to do with sustainability. Anything that you can add green to. Not green uniform, but if you can put a green in your cause somewhere, then there is funding in Europe. I know in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in Germany, Scandinavian country. Anything that is to do with this. I don't know if you got funding for Women Today show, but certainly this is an area of funding. But you see, what you're looking at is something that is sustainable.
Yes.
So you have to put sustainability in whatever business that you're doing. So even when you're going for funding, you've put the sustainability equation in there, as you seek funding and you talk about it.
Okay.
And if you don't know what sustainability is, please, you can check it and start familiarizing yourself with it, but very, very important. Where there is sustainability, then you are likely to attract money.
Okay.
Even when you hear about the green bond, why is it green? Yeah, it's sustainability related things. Yeah.
Okay. Before I open the floor to questions, because I know that they might be coming, I just want to ask Mr. Lawrence Githinji a question about, you have sons. Yeah, you mentioned you have sons and a daughter. Actually, the daughter is here. Hi. Yeah. I believe they're both teenagers and they're living in a world that is so biased. And the conversation here is about, breaking the bias. What are you teaching them about gender, and what do you hope they will always know in regards to this given topic?
Okay, so I'm here with my wife and then my daughter who's here. She finished high school, and I also have two other children. So I have a son who's 22. He's in the final year of college, and I also have a son who's 14. So in our house is 3 boys and 2 girls, we say.
Yeah.
And what we have done as a family is first of all say that everybody here is equal, so we treat everybody with respect, as siblings, as individuals, as children of God. And then what we've done also as a family, all of us together, we've put down what we call our family mission statement, and then we put down values.
Okay.
So we listed values one by one. You bring your value, you
It's
write
a whole
yours.
organization.
So we put them down, and some of the values there, and that's thanks to my wife. She came up with this kind of noble ideas.
Nice.
And yeah, so we put down the values, and in those values you will see things like we treat each other with respect. We say sorry when we make a mistake. We are truthful. We are honest. Yeah, and my daughter probably can finish the rest. But what we do is, you'll see that these values, they help us as a family, and actually is a place where we go back to.
Yeah.
We tell each other, do you remember the values? This seems to be contravening.
Yeah.
So then that is just bring out the aspect of equality. There's no bias. Everybody is equal and everybody gets the same opportunities, whether you are a girl or a boy. Yeah.
Okay. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know whether you have any questions. That's very nice. Thank you so much, Mr. Lawrence Githinji. Any questions? Yes. I see them.
Thank you. Once again, I'm Joyce Ogino, a research scientist in environmental policy and law. So I have a question for you, but I'll give some background. A few years ago, I was doing a regional assignment with some of the best scientists in the world and in Africa. Some of the ladies have won some of the most prestigious prizes you can think of. So one day when we were going for a workshop meeting, the ladies could not get their visa. So it was a man who had to stand in for the group. And I'd noticed previously when the ladies were leading, the group would not listen. Most of the time, they're the ones who are doing most of the work. But miraculously, this time, when it was a man, everyone was listening. We did so much work as a team, everyone was attentive, and that caught my attention. I said, what does this man have that the other ladies who are more qualified don't have? So that informed my decision to have a male mentor, because I had these female mentors who are helping me to be the best, but there's something else when it comes to managing people that men seem to have. But in this era of Me Too movement, I have a male mentor right now. You find that they're a bit scared to deal with you as a lady because they're scared of navigating that relationship. So my question to you is, as a lady, how can I make men in this era more comfortable offering me mentorship, learning from them, and making it a more mutual, beneficial relationship for the two of us? Because I feel I really need the leadership side of things from the male side. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. So should I answer that first, or I take another one?
I
think you could answer that.
You could answer that first, and then I've seen Madam Eva would like to also speak about. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe Eva, you want to go first on that?
Ladies
okay.
first, yeah.
Okay. No, she says I first. So, well, I think when it comes to a mentorship kind of engagement, whether it's cross gender or the same gender, I think first of all, it's very important to know what the objectives are. What kind of mentorship is this? Is it about career? What is it kind of mentorship? So you have very clear expectations for this kind of engagement. I think how long is going to take? What is going to be the form of engagement? Are you meeting physically? Are you meeting online? How long are you meeting? It's very important to have those boundaries, especially if it's between a man and a woman, because you don't want to cause any kind of discomfort or open up other doors where now the man starts thinking you are very beautiful, or maybe they had a fight with the boyfriend, with the girlfriend or the wife, and they are now coming to you, so this kind of thing, both ways I would say. So very clear to have the boundaries, the form of engagement and the expectations, and also how long this is going to be, a frequency of meeting and all that. That's what I would say. But it's very clear from the beginning, then I think it's something that can work, but to be navigated very carefully. Of course, if men are mentoring men, then then of course you already remove a lot of these other issues. And then female also mentoring, female or women mentoring women, then that works out well, because then it avoids some situations. But if, for example, you want to be mentored by a leading maybe criminal lawyer, and she's a lady and you are a man, then of course you need to speak to that person. So what do? Then make it clear, have clear boundaries, objectives, and go for it. And also remember that when it comes to mentor-mentee relationships, is that the mentee should drive this. What do you want as a mentee? Is you to drive. You're not going there to be told what to do. Is you say, I think I need A, B, C, D, and then in that process, the mentor is able to pick up other things that they can help you with. I hope this answers you, but Eva, please.
Thank you very much. I think you've really answered the question excellently around managing expectations from the get-go, because there's always the elephant in the room. Mine is a comment to a discussion earlier. So last night, EABL launched its centenary celebrations. Okay, centenary. 100 years in business, okay? They are not the first ones to celebrate that milestone, because we know that KCB Bank, that started many, many years ago, has operated in this market for more than 100 years, correct? And then we have other brands like perhaps Brook Bond and others. Others have operated 75 years, and we see them, and it could be even like Parkland Sports Club and, maybe Karen Club. Okay, the list goes on. So 2 years ago, some work began at KEPSA, and I really wish Rita was here because, oh, you're here, Rita. There, Rita was here. Some work began through the gender sector board at KEPSA. KEPSA has several. The structure is amazing. It mirrors the government of the day. So you have different sector boards that then advocate for a more enabling environment for specific sectors. So if it's industrialization, you've got a sector board that is looking into the nuances. So about 2 years ago, some amazing work began. And this is in response to your conversation with Christina around equal pay. Ladies and gentlemen, would you believe that since enterprise began in Kenya, even after independence, the Kenyan private sector has never had a harmonized or a formal or a recognized or a standardized gender policy? That this is our understanding of gender policy as a private sector. And more than that, this is how it ought to be positioned and implemented. This coming week, Tuesday, 8th of March, we are going to rewrite the history books because KEPSA will lead in the launch of the first ever private sector gender policy that is 7-piece. Okay? A lot of hard work has gone into creating it over these last 2 years, and it's fair to say, courtesy of the MasterCard Foundation, thank you for saying that there are those who can provide the catalytic resource to make these things happen. Why is this important? This is important because now we will be able to ask your organization, how are we doing on these 7 that include issues of wage? How are we doing on these issues that include even sexual harassment in the workplace? How are we doing on these issues that have to do with time poverty or the wealth of time thereof? Have you increased an understanding within your organizational behavior around, I'm lactating professional, deal with it. Provide the opportunity for me to lactate well, as I am the best engineer in the room. I am menopausal, deal with it. And I want you to accommodate that as I am the best finance manager in the room. Got it? History is about to be made in these next 2 days, okay? We are going to completely break the bias by virtue of launching this gender policy that then we will need you all to champion, all the he for she's in the room, all of us in the room, to say that it cannot continue being as it has been before. All right? So 100 years later, as EABL is celebrating, nothing to create parity or accelerate parity. Got it? So thank you for the question around equal pay. It has continued to be, will continue to be, but now we have a standard. It won't be forced down people's throats. We will collaboratively engage for them to see in implementing gender policy, we are employing smart economics. Smart economics. So I want you all to look out for it. We launch it on the 8th of March. Tag and share and celebrate Woman Today show. Make sure that you're looking out for it. I really was burning to share that good news. So you're all part of the first community to hear that it's going to happen. But let's look forward to it and celebrate it. And if Rita was not my sponsor at KEPSA, this conversation may never have happened. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
So thank you again for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you. Were there any other questions? Yes.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Stacy Nyandiko. I am a woman in STEM in the water space. I'm an engineer at a company known as Xylem Water Solutions. And my question to fellow engineer Lawrence is, how did you transition from tech to management? It's usually such a tough task, and sometimes you can't mark time. You can just, okay, tech is very important, but it's important for us to transition to management. How did you succeed to move from tech to management?
Thank you for that. It's a question that I've seen in many places, and what I normally tell people is that managing people or managing an organization or whatever it is something that you'll have to do one time in your life, one way or another. You know, whether it's in the family, they've asked you to manage some process for buying some piece of land, or something. There is something where you're managing people or managing a small group of people. So it's part and parcel of our lives. You may be a doctor and then you want to sort of start a hospital. Then you will need some aspects of management. You may still continue practicing as a doctor, but you need to have these aspects. So for me, what I did, first of all, within my career, so I've worked for 3 companies, starting with water, I call it water flow, then with Atlas Copco air, so airflow, and then now with KONE people, so people flow. So water flow, airflow, and people flow. And then in these companies, I have done several jobs within the company. So like what I was talking about, internal mobility, moving from one department to the other, 2 years here, 3 years there, like that, deliberately to get to learn as much as possible so that I enrich myself. Also coming from an engineering background, I realized that I needed some finance training. And I see this training nowadays. I wish it was there before, finance for non-finance people.
Yes.
That time we didn't have this thing. It was the finance people feeling very hot in their offices. Sorry, Rita. But and I was going to beg them to explain a few things. But I decided to take an MBA class. And in the MBA class, so it was a 2-year MBA program in strategic management, but there was a topic on, there was a course on financial accounting theory, which people said was very, very tough. So I picked actually that first. My first semester, I said I want to tackle this fear head on. So I went for it so that I could understand that, and also managerial economics. So it helped me. And then for my thesis, I picked a topic that was completely, not what everybody else was doing. So this was strategic management, but my thesis was titled "The Role of Transformational Leadership on Team Performance." So it was a leadership-based thesis, and that was in 2006. 2007. Yeah. So it was a while back, and the reason I did this is because I really wanted to understand about people. And leadership, and so I decided to write a thesis about it, and I used actually a case study. Actually, I used Bidco, and I did that. So I was deliberate in terms of just equipping myself with those realities, with the skills that I needed to have, but also knowing that if I wanted to go and lead an organization or even my department, then I needed to be well equipped with that. I would have also I would have also chosen to just stay pure engineering. That's fine. That's okay. You can stay there. We want people who can do a fantastic job, in Ketrako or wherever, that things are not failing. We also want those people. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Any other question? All right.
Wow. 2 others.
2 more.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Brenda. In Isuzu, East Africa, as an engineer, but in sales and marketing. So my question is, like you said, you've worked across board in many departments. And as an engineer, what do you think is unique of us in different departments? Like, for example, now I'm in sales and marketing. What do you think I can leverage as an engineer, and I can bring it as a very powerful tool in sales and marketing? Yes, like in very many departments. What do you think? Thank you very much.
Okay, that's a good question. So I'll say 2 things. One, all the engineers we can meet behind after this and discuss it. Anyway, well, I think, as an engineer, you bring analytical skills. You work with numbers a lot. And so you're very comfortable when numbers are put there, even if those numbers have to do with sales, and as long as they're digits that are there. So you're comfortable with that. You bring in efficiency in terms of processes, what you're going to do. You can say probably quickly from an engineering perspective that this is a waste of time. Or we could do this in this short time. Maybe from the engineering side. From the other side, that's needed. So there are those perspectives that you can bring in terms of efficiency and also working with the numbers. And then, of course, in engineering, our work is to bring solutions, to find solutions to life situations. I believe that's what everybody else says regarding their profession. But I think if it wasn't for engineers here, probably this building would have collapsed. So we try to...
If it was not for communications
good engineers. Yeah, our communications advisors to come. Yeah, so I think those 3 aspects I would say. But also just to... one thing is that I'd like to mention, one of my roles I had was a global product engineer, where you sort of develop a product from scratch. So, for example, it's a bottle, this bottle. So you're the product manager. So I'm actually a global product manager. So you're a product manager and you want to have a bottle for something which you've identified. So you will form a project team. So I would form a project team. So it wasn't bottles, it was other items that I used in air compressors, things to do with electric motors and such kind of things. And in this project team, as a product manager, then I was a project leader. So I would come up with a project myself. And actually that's how I started getting into LinkedIn, you know, in 2000 and something, early on, because in there were forums where I could be able to go and get ideas for my projects. So then I come up with the projects. That was in Europe. And so in this project team, you have people from different functions. You have procurement, you have somebody from production, you have myself as a product manager who carries the concept. You have actually people who are doing pure engineering, you know, like a calculations engineer. You know, so you have all these people. And the role of them, each and every one of them, was very, very critical. Not just the engineer, but everybody else. So you have to bring in, first of all, know what is it that you're bringing into the team. You ask yourself, if you're in a team as an engineer, what am I bringing in there? Yeah, don't go to a team if you don't even know what you're going to take in there. So you have to know that this is my strength and I bring it in, and you also try to make noise a little bit about it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
All right, thank
I
you.
guess there's.
Yes, one more question. I know there's some
Dr.
stomach.
Lenita, is it a question or an answer?
It's
It's a question.
an
Okay, so
answer. It's an answer. All right.
So good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dora Kabila. I am a mechanical engineer. I work for Isuzu East Africa in the manufacturing division. So I just wanted to lend my voice to answer the question about how do you transition from an engineer to management. So based off of my own experience, and also under the leadership of Rita. So definitely you have to be good at what you do first. Then secondly, the whole idea of raising your hands when there are tough projects, or be the one who volunteers. So for myself, I remember leading up to moving into management, there was a lot of volunteering and trying to do this, trying to offer solutions, even in my own job, trying to make things better. So you will also need to learn many things around people management. So a lot of learning and unlearning things you did not know. A lot of training that our company offers us. So possibly off the top of my mind, there's a course that Federation of Kenya Employers offers called Female Future. I can say for me that is one of the good trainings that assisted me to transition. And I think 2 years ago, when we did our workplace survey, my department, or rather myself as a leader, I actually scored 100% engagement of my employees, and I have 21 of them. So a lot of learning, a lot of training. If your company can offer that, well and good, but you can also develop yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Leonita Sumba. I'm the chairperson of Women in Water and Sanitation. And to Lawrence, thank you for bringing up the topic of your thesis, because we call ourselves WIWAS. We are carrying out a research starting in January. We are doing a research on transforming institutions to advance women leadership in STEM, together with the University of Ghana, University of Nairobi, and African Population Health Research Center. So I think you're going to be one of our case studies, because we have a whole package on the male experience. And also I've seen many women here. I think some of you are going to form part of our study subjects on how we can get women in leadership in STEM. So on my question is that we've had there are very few women in leadership positions in these male-dominated institutions. So how do you go about recruitment? Is there this unconscious bias, and how do you handle it in your institution? Thank you.
Well, yeah, so in our institution, of course, we want to ensure that we attract as many people as possible. to apply for jobs in our company. So we do employer branding, and we want it to be one of the objectives actually is to make our company to be the best place to work for. Yeah, so we do that deliberately so that we can attract many people to apply for jobs. And we know, for example, right now, LinkedIn is a platform that's used all over, and all our jobs will end up on LinkedIn automatically, any kind of vacancy, and many people apply. And we try to sort of profile ourselves as a really good company. So we do that. Number two, so when we get these applications, then we try to make it as balanced as possible. So we want 10 candidates shortlisted. We want 5 male, 5 female. But of course, they have to be good candidates, but we try deliberately to do that so that we have an even number. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to have that balance. For example, in my engineering class in the university, we were 29 who graduated, and there were only 2 ladies. So whatever type of balance you want to do is, but when you come to entry level, middle level positions, then it becomes much more easier. But it's not an excuse or a reason to bring in people who are not up to the task, because everybody has to do a fantastic job. And Rita said that you have to work hard. You have to do a good job. And if you do a good job, then certainly you'll be able to get those opportunities. I know at a global level, our executive board really sitting in Finland, they also have a target with regards to the composition of female in that board.
Okay.
And it's there on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for that insightful session. You have talked about the work that your organization is doing to promote the participation of women and also gender equality. And now I want to ask, at your personal level as an individual, apart from the organization, what do you do to break the bias? Thank you.
Well, okay. One is I come for this kind of invitation.
Good one. That's a good one.
Because it can be a yes or a no or a wait. Is it aligned to, as you know, I'm involved with the men. I have a forum called the Men's Book Breakfast where it's just men.
Yeah. And
people are asking, why aren't there women? We say it's because we want to process the men to be better men for society and for their women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
So and then also what we see is that the challenges, sorry, I digress a bit. What we see as the challenges when I ask the men in a survey, what are the challenges men face? And we find actually, and believe it or not, is similar to the challenges ladies also face. Lack of confidence and those kind of things.
Yes.
But at a personal level, I think this kind of engagements are good, but of course, this is not an everyday kind of thing. So in my spaces, just to be very clear that we treat everybody equally, we give everybody the same opportunities, and that anybody can grow, whether you are a man or a woman. So there is no favoritism.
Has there been any growth for the women, like promotions and?
Yes, we've had women, let's say, taking up extra responsibilities, but also you need to know that I joined the current organization just over 1 year ago.
Okay. Yeah.
We've tried to keep the balance, but of course, when there are new opportunities coming up, then we say, okay, we need to have a lady. So, for example, in the leadership team, we've had one person joining the leadership team, and this is a lady. Yeah.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, engineer from Kintraco.